and welcome to this webinar. My name's Blair Valentine and I'm a consultant at Nimbus. This webinar is about exploring the why, the how, and the highlights from this year in regards to continuous updates. So at Nimbus, what we look at doing is we look at when we're updating the system, we look at improvements and we do this on a monthly released basis. And in this webinar, what I want to talk you through is what are continuous updates and why less is more. Showcasing some highlights on what has been released throughout this year with our continuous updates. We special surprise introducing Michelle Van Dyke, who's new in our role as sales and marketing. So we've listened to you and wanted to hear more from Nimbus, and especially in regards to these updates. So we'll be introducing Michelle towards the end of this webinar today. And we're going to have some questions and answers at the end. So continuous updates, they're all about staying current, keeping all aspects of your system up to date, from bug fixes and security updates to performance improvements and enhanced functionality. We recommend that systems are updated twice a year, and that means that your system is going to be ready to adopt new products. So any new products that we develop here at Nimbus are designed to work with the very latest versions of Nimbus. Never a webinar by me without dropping in a little definition. Continuous updates. Definition without interruption makes something more modern or up to date, the Oxford Dictionary. Less is more, the why and the how. The why. Why would you want to do this? This is all about keeping your system current. It becomes making it a cost-effective and a smooth update process. It mitigates risk and it has minimal disruption to your system if we do it more regularly. And it really does mean that your system is ready to adopt any new Nimbus products and features. So talking a little bit about the how we do this. Well, part of it is actually, first of all, is from your own perspective, actually knowing how do you know when you were last updated in your system. So we know that we within Nimbus have version numbers, so you're probably quite familiar with the fact that we have versions like 6.09 or 6.08 as earlier versions. We also, you may not know, and I'll just drag this up on the screen just so that we can see it. Also might not know that if we, on the end of your URL that's on your Nimbus site, if you type in test.aspx at the end, it will tell you the very first line, Nimbus intranet version, and it will tell you the last time or the latest update that was done to your system. So in the case of this one, I'm looking at our marketing demo, and I can see here that it was updated, or the last intranet update was on Wednesday, the 23rd of October, 2024, so reasonably up to date. So you could look at your own Nimbus site and see when the last time or the last update was done to your system, so you know how long it's been since today's date. Now, we're recommended scheduling updates with you twice a year. And why twice a year? Because this is what we've found has been a more of an optimal process in which you are kept up to date with the latest fixes, enhancements, security fixes, everything that goes with that. But it also means it makes it as simple and quick as possible from our perspective as well. So it becomes cost effective. And doing it twice a year means that you can schedule this in and we can just create it on a regular type cycle. Also recommending the possibility of it that's done towards the end of a day. Now, the reason that we do that is that towards the end of a day, it gives us the chance to take the site offline to do our process that we do. And if in the worst case scenario, so being risk adverse as we all are, if there's something that's not quite right or we need to fix, we need to change a little bit more, we can carry on past the end of the day and just make sure that we get everything up and operational, so the very next day that it's all ready to go. Those discussions on when it happens and the time of when it happens are of course up for agreement between everybody. So I want to talk about what is our process for updating. So part of it is a preparation. So because we do continuous updates on a regular basis, so every month, we take into consideration when the last time your site was updated. So i.e. you were 609 and you were updated, say, 18 months ago. We then go through and as part of our preparation, we look at each one of those months that's occurred since that, and we actually look at all the different updates and what will affect your site. We do realize that each site is a little bit unique and sometimes different. So we do take that into consideration when we're looking at what has been updated in each one of those months. So we prepare for that, and if there are any sort of scripts or any sorts of forms or any sort of updates and reports or anything that needs to be done, we take copies of all those things and we're prepared for when we do the update to apply them. So On the day of the update, what happens is the very first thing that we do is obviously we've scheduled the time. It's getting closer to, say, if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the first thing that we do, of course, is backing up your system. So we back it up in its entirety so that if anything goes wrong, we can recover it. We back up every single file in your system. So if something goes wrong, we can recover it. So worst case scenario, we can put it back exactly as it was when we started. Never had to do that, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. Then we run through our process of updating the system. So what do we do to update the system? We replace files and we update like so what we term as our intranet or your internet site called Nimbus. We update parts of it such as what we call them as our next generation platform. We update those parts of the platform. We apply any sorts of changes that we need or any sort of patching that gets it done and applied to the server. And all that sort of stuff happens with the system being completely offline so that nobody can be accessing the system or change things while we've got it offline. Once we've finished on that process, we then bring it back, the site back online, and we go through a testing process where we make sure the site's operational. We'll test a couple of the basic screens just to make sure that everything's functioning as we expect it to be functioning, and make sure all that works. Then sometimes what is optional is also about client patching. So if we've had any changes to our applications that run locally on your workstation, then there may be the need for you to run a utility that exists on the Nimbus menu that's just called patches. It's simply just clicking on this option that says patches. It runs away in the background autonomously, does its own thing, grabs the files, downloads, updates them, does everything that it needs to do, and will tell you when it's finished, and then that's done. It's just kind of automatic. In some cases, security on your site or some other restrictions may stop that from happening. So there may be just some manual intervention where you might need to give us a call and say, hey, that didn't update so-and-so's machine or something like that, and let us know so that we can work through that. Okay, I want to sort of talk also about now about talking about what are some of the changes that we've done over the last year, and what that is in your system, what it kind of means for you. So it gives you a bit of a taste as to what we're actually updating or what's actually changing. So it helped for you to understand why are some good reasons for continuous updates. Okay, starting off January 2024. Now these are just understand these are a snapshot of some things that have changed. I've just picked a couple of things from every month throughout this year. This does not mean that this is the list. There's normally lots and lots of different things that have changed. And certainly we have heard you that you'd like to kind of be notified of what some of these changes are, and we are getting a lot better at that, and we're going through a process to make that a lot more easier for you to understand and to communicate to you. Okay, January 2024, creditors direct credit file, automatic archiving of a direct credit payment files. So this was something that was well asked for. So basically the direct credit file now can be automatically archived before the creation of the next file for a payment run. So the system will do this now automatically. This avoids the need for you asking for a consultant to recreate a file afterwards if you need to go back and to view something or do something like that. What works around is that there's an archive directory, and basically it will automatically move that into there as part of it. So this will just happen as part of if this January 2024 update's been applied to your system. Next one I'm just highlighting here is that there's a screen in our system and we call it the implementation issues, and we've updated it. We did a wee bit of a revamp on that. We updated some forms and reports and tables and views around that. Now what this is, you may never have seen it before, but originally it was designed as part of something that we did when we implemented a system, a means of logging any sort of implementation issues or anything that's gone around this or that's happened because of it, so that you could sort of keep track of it. You can log new issues, you can edit existing ones, you can report upon it and see that sort of information. But some of our clients, just as an idea, some of our clients are actually using this for current issues, so for logging those and to keeping track of them in the system. So it's just knowing the fact that we actually have a screen already in the system that does this for you, and you may or may not have actually been aware of that. Okay, moving on to February. So in February, another example of something that we looked at was that Chrome made a change to its security, the fact that they made a difference in the way that documents were either exported or downloaded from within Chrome. And we found that it produced a whole lot of confusing error messages or confusing messages about downloads being blocked from Nimbus. So examples were Excel documents being produced, or PDFs from Nimbus Scan, or words from Content Store, or whatever. There was lots of different things around that. So part of what that process in February was to document and to notify people of there's alternatives to that, or what those messages are actually meaning. Also in February 2024, we released what we term as our job management dashboards. Now, there's a couple of representations of those. So these are a graphical representation of your data at a glance in a dashboard sort of format. We have some of these predefined job management dashboards. We have our debtors and our creditors and a banking version. If you're interested in that, contact us and we can put that on your system for you. Okay, in March. With Nimbus Scan products. So Nimbus Scan is our product that we use for character recognition on your invoices, creditor invoices that come in, and it's built in and fully integrated with the Nimbus system. We added an additional feature of creditor branches in which it recognizes when an invoice comes in, who the supplier actually is and who they belong to based upon some definitions of locations or addresses that are on the invoice and some other types of details. We added another screen or another functionality that enabled us, and I'll just drag this up so you can see it. Sorry, I was going to drag that up. That just seemed to disappear off my screen somewhere. Where did that go? Oh, okay, that disappeared. Oh, I was going to show you that, but that seems to have disappeared off of my screen. Okay, debtor statements and direct debits. A live webinar would never be a live webinar without something going a little bit skewy. So thank you for that. Debtor statements, the bank account length check. So we've added a check in with the debtor direct debits, so that it ensures that the bank account entered against the debtor meets the correct length of the format. In April, we made a change to our quoting app, and one of those was to do with the fact that to read an additional 8 characters instead of 8 for the job number, 16 characters. So for some of our customers, and I think this is a great thing to sort of be aware of, for some of our customers, that job number is starting to get a little bit longer, or they're using longer numbers, and we've been able to update the system to keep that, to cater for that. We made a change in April 2024 to our content store. So our content store is our document management system that's within Nimbus that we can use to store documents or check out on revisions, or give you history of when the document was last accessed by somebody, and all those sorts of things. We had the ability, we've got security around the document types. The document type lets you save the document and lets whoever has permissions to actually see that document. And we found that some people could actually import a document to a particular document type, but then they weren't actually able to see it because they didn't have permissions to do that. So we've wrapped some extra security and controls around to stop that from happening. So part of this, and why I tell you about these things, part of it is all about the fact that there's a range of different things that we change as part of these updates. And I wanted to give you sort of a bit of a taste as to what some of those things are. In May, the editor setup upgrade tool. So part of an upgrade, this editor setup tool is refreshed. And if an error occurred during that, sometimes it was displayed and sometimes it lacked particular information and particular form names and those sorts of things. So we decided to enhance that, to add some additional details into it, so it made it a little bit more user-friendly and easier to understand. So constantly looking at and improving. We've got mobile worker solutions. This was an update to a process in which, with our mobile worker package, enables when purchase orders were created from a tablet, so a person's out there in the field and they're creating a purchase order. We found a little issue with the stock quantity on an order when the not being updated quite correctly in some of the areas. So we've made some additions and some updates to that. Now, mobile worker packages, if you're not aware of them within Nimbus, we've got lots of different flavors around that as well. So contact us and have a chat if you're interested in mobile out there in the field using Nimbus and making it an easier process. Debtor statements. In June 2024, there was an ambiguous error message occurred. When somebody opened up the setup app, and they try changing the default message that appears when you send out an email, and we've fixed that up, so there's an improvement to that. And back in June 2024, we started the process on working on updating what we term as a NGP, or a next generation platform or product. We've started the process of upgrading from its form of 1.13, which you can see there on the left, how that looks, to what it looks like now in a version of 1.16, which is a bit more of a tablet, more modern sort of type look and feel, and there's been some new functionality added to that. Now, I also wanted to mention that around this, if you haven't, when I talk about some of these things, and especially like so these updates to 1.16, that we also have another range of webinars, if you haven't seen them before. So I'll just bring up the page. So Nimbus has a YouTube page, or a YouTube site, and there's a range of webinars that already exist on there, and they talk about some of these things. Like I just mentioned then about the new generation platform 1.16, so we've got a webinar that talks about that. And some of the other things that I'll mention this morning, we've already got webinars that tell you some more details about that. So want some more information, refer back to that, or just contact us and let us know. Okay, moving on. Time Portal. Time Portal is a tool that we have for being able to enter your time when you're out in the field, and another version of a user-friendly sort of type look and feel of entering data. I do have a look and feel of it on my PC that I can drag and drop, so you can just get a wee taste of what that kind of looks like. Being able to enter time or enter crew time, and seeing statuses and balances that are showing on that. And what we found is that as we introduced this out into you as a customer, that we found that there wasn't just being used for capturing time. They wanted to capture other additional uses of plant or anything like that that we're using when you're out in the field. So we added additional items and additional information to be able to capture that and to make that more easy and to work for you. Also, here's something that we were doing some work on, which so everybody's version now, or if you're up to date, is version 6.09. So this is version 6.10. So this is our next version of our local apps that run on your machine. In this case, we were looking at, they've been making some work on making this available, and they found that some of the fonts and some of the look and feel of it wasn't quite the way that it needed to be. But what I want to mention about this is that V6.10 apps, what we're looking at with these local ones that work on your machines, is making them less dependent on your machine, and removing a piece of technology called what we term as Com+, and it's what communicates basically between Nimbus and the applications or the transactions or the software that goes backwards and forwards. So in these V6.10 apps, we're removing the necessity of it communicating from your local machine, which has given us installation sort of problems and other sorts of weird and wonderful stuff as technology companies change the way that their workstations work, to directly working with Com+ that's related directly to the server. And this is sort of a migration platform that we're working towards, and everybody's heard of that, in the cloud and all that sort of type stuff, and it just removes some reliance on some local technology that makes that a lot more possible, and we're moving towards some things around that. In August, Nimbus Scan. So once again, that was a scanning product to do that we use for OCR and creditor invoices. We made some changes around that to improve the performance. Great, everybody started using it. They enjoyed it. We needed to make it run a bit quicker, so we went through a process of actually making that run a lot faster than what it did. We also made a change to this. I love this one. This one is about, in the system, we have a table that stores calendar information. So it used to store 10 years prior to your system starting and 30 years afterwards of this calendar data information in the system. And what we found is that for a lot of our customers that have been with us for a long time, this kind of wasn't cutting the mustard anymore. We needed to write a process in which this actually extended the number of years, and it ran on a sort of a regular basis to keep it up to date. So this is actually adding in a function now, so that there's basically, like 50, 60 plus years of this calendar data, which we just use for a whole lot of stuff in our reporting, and to make things a lot more accessible and easy for us when we're doing things within Nimbus. In September, in our NGP, we've got a stock NGP, our next generation platform. We've got some maintenance apps, and some of those maintenance apps, which look a little bit like this. It's a tool that we use. This is a tool that we use for basically for basically for bringing in data in bulk. So when we set up a new system or a new implementation of Nimbus, or that you are adding a bulk number of stock items or jobs or something along the lines, we've got a tool in our NGP platform that enables us to do this in bulk. So in the case of this, we found that the supplier field was not being updated with a particular creditor ID, so we resolved and fixed that problem. We also, with our next generation platform, we have a EMS. We all love these acronyms and all sorts of funny names, and from a technology perspective, EMS stands for electronic messaging system. So our solution, and we've always got to keep on top of this, because third parties out there like Microsoft and all those people that provide a lot of those systems like Office 365, etc., always constantly changing it. So we made a change in this for our solution, so that we can get the emails directly from Office 365 instead of having to connect to it. So it's just future-proofing our ability to communicate from a messaging side of technology. Okay. In October, August, September, October. In our form designer, we found that when you were tabbing from different fields, that sometimes using the tab key would stop. Instead of the value being validated, it would just jump onto the next subsequent field and not actually validate it. So we made some code modifications to ensure that data validation is being triggered upon the tab action, so that it made some changes around that and it did the correct behavior that it's supposed to do. So recognizing that it needed an enhancement. We also made a change to what we termed as our content store. So before I mentioned that was our document management solution in Nimbus, and then we've got some webinars on that. From customer feedback, what we found is that what people wanted to see, or our customers wanted to see, is that when for a particular job, or if a particular job had a document or something saved against it, that they would be able to receive an alert, some sort of notification that says, hey, your particular job, you wanted to know if something was ever saved against this, like a document or changed, an alert now comes to you to know that that's actually had a change in the system. Okay, moving on to November. Another good one. It's a good problem to have and a good problem to solve. So I talked a little bit before about communication in this ComPlus business that we talked about. So ComPlus, the way that we had originally wrote it had a limitation of basically batching or transacting 32,768 records at any given time. And we've had you as some of our customers have come across the fact that when you're running invoicing, that you needed more than that 32,768 records. So we've basically changed some of the technology behind that a little bit to vastly increase that, so it can handle a vast number of more records. And that's something just to sort of mention about from these continuous updates as well, is that why are we doing continuous updates is because your business is constantly changing. The amount of data that's going in the system is constantly changing. We need to keep enhancing and making things run better and more efficiently. So this is a good example of that. Another thing that we changed in November is to do around with our Nimbus Scan product. So our Nimbus Scan product, when it saves a email that comes in from a supplier, it saves it into a version of the content store, and it wasn't tagging it quite with as much detail as we'd liked it to have been. So we've made some improvements which we will be able to now tag when that comes in, that it gets tagged against the relevant creditor, tagged against the relevant job and the relevant purchase order. So from any one of those screens, when you're looking at it from a content store perspective, you will be able to see the list of invoices that relate to that particular creditor or that particular job or that particular purchase order that have come in, if you've got security around that to make that available. So this is all just, this is up to November 2024. This is all just a snapshot of some of the things that we've been changing in the system, and just letting you know what is part of some of these continuous updates. Okay, so we're now at the point where it's about some questions and answers, but I perhaps want to invite Michelle to come on board and just to introduce herself. This is Michelle Van Dyke. She's our new sales and marketing person. If she'd just like to maybe just say a couple of words just to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, Cool. Thank you, Blair. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle. As Blair mentioned, I'm the new sales and marketing person at Nimbus, and so you'll start hearing a lot more from me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with you all. Thank you,
Great.
Blair.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, I guess also continuous updates. So this is, have you got any questions around continuous updates? Is there anything?
Not at the moment. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions.
Okay, so we've got a tool there, a Q&A tool that's on Teams that you can just, if you've got anything that you want to put in there, just to comment about. But I will talk about the aim of continuous updates is if we do it on a regular basis, it means that when we do the updates, there's a lot less required. So it becomes quicker, simpler, and easier for us to do those updates, and for you also as the customer for these updates to be applied. So that's a good means of doing that. And we certainly are recommending that you reach out and contact us, and we'll be in contact from this webinar as well, talking about if you want to do this, how can we organize that? Let's schedule this in. Let's just make it a peace of mind. It's scheduled on to happen every 6 months or something like that at a time that works for you, and that easily that these can just happen in the background, and you know that your system's up to date, it's got the latest fixes, it's running as quickly as possible as it can, every enhancement's been done in there, any new technology that we bring on board, any changes that we make and that we alert you of that are available now to Nimbus, any new products, that your system's right there and ready to have these applied and turned on and to function. Okay. I've had my spiel, and I'm sure from a sales and marketing perspective, Michelle's very proud of me for that little spiel about trying to encourage you
For sure.
why we should be doing these. If anyone has any questions, feel free to sort of ask them out there.
Yeah, here we go. How do we know when our last one was?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So hang on one second for me. So I just showed this a little bit earlier on, but the real simplest way of actually showing this is on your website. If you can see this. So the example of my one's called demo.nimbus.co.nz, Nimbus marketing demo. You type the word test.aspx on the end. And what that will do is bring up this page. And when it brings up this page, the very first line says, what is the version of Nimbus that you're running? Hopefully it's 6.09. And then it will say this date that occurs after it was the date of the update, not when it was actually done, but the date of when the update was finalized that was put on your system. So in the case of this, Wednesday, the 23rd of October, 2024. So that's the point of how up to date my system is. And you can be on 0.6 version 6.09, and you may have had that for the last 2 or 3 years or something like that. So all those last 2 years of continuous updates that we've been doing, you won't have any of those new sorts of features. And especially if you saw before and on our webinar, the NGP, the 1.16, the new look and feel and all that other stuff that comes with that is part of the latest and only just been released in the last few months. So this is part of the latest version that's on there, and you will get that as part of the update. Great.
Right, we have another question. If you run Nimbus through a remote desktop server, do you need to run the patches on that or still on each computer locally?
Oh, yeah. So depending how you run it, so if it's run on a remote desktop server or through a terminal server or something like that as an example, so depending on where it's being run. So if your machine is a local machine and it's running locally, independent of that, then the patches need to be run on that local machine. If it's running via a terminal server or something like that, so you're logging into a terminal server and running it that way, the patches are only then done on the terminal server, and not each individual person needs to do that. So that's a good question. So yeah, hopefully that clarifies that for you. But in the case of this, and there's continuous updates, as your Nimbus consultant will be in contact with you and run through everything to make sure that you know 100% of what actually is going to happen as part of the process. Yeah.
Right, and last question, pricing, question mark.
Pricing. Okay, well, the pricing is part of the part of the reason that we're talking about continuous updates and doing them 6 monthly apart is because they become a lot quicker and simpler and easy for us to do. So initially, if it has been 2 or 3 years since it's been updated, there's a little bit more work, or perhaps I might say in between a little and a lot more work for us to do to bring your system up to date. So on a regular basis, it becomes easily budgetable and pricing along those lines. So what's an example? Let me say, on a regular updating cycle, if we were going to do it every twice a year, that 1 to 2 sort of type hour sort of type range should be able to bring that in for each one of those to do it. But outside of that, if it's been like a number of years since you've done it, it may take 3 or 4 or more hours to be able to bring that system up to line with the latest versions, to run through all those monthly updates and cycles that we've done to bring it right up to date. So yeah, so it really depends on your site when the last time that was actually updated, but certainly contact us and we can certainly pull together how long we think that will take and give you an estimate so you know what's involved. But initially, once this is up and running, and if we encourage you to do it on that twice a year basis, this will make this process so much more simpler and easier for yourselves and make it a far more cost-effective process. How about that, Michelle? Done some more marketing and sales stuff.
Thanks, Blair. That's it. All the questions.
Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar. And please just contact us if you have any questions or anything from it. So thank you very much.